everyone, it's your friendly neighborhood Shadow Jerry. AST YouTubers. They have been getting their fair share of criticisms lately. Daft Pina, a very well-known critic of the AST community, is probably expected to reach 100k. Stax has also been doing well with his straightforward style of criticism. But in this chaotic mist of commentary and review channels, I stumbled upon a smaller reviewer who now recently goes by the name of Foster, his previous channel name being Foster the Gorillas. Now, I watched most of his videos. The ones I didn't watch include these, because they really don't have any relevance to the review, and I'm not going to focus on the whole aspect of his channel. But rather I'm going to mainly focus on his recent video, and I will be giving my thoughts on what I generally think that Foster can improve on. For the most part, his videos are pretty decent, but lately when I watched his review on Wolfie Chew, as if I haven't watched so many Wolfie Chew reviews and rants already, I have noticed that he tends to make claims that he doesn't really have evidence for, and pretty much leaving his audience to take his word for it. The claims or points he makes can also be rather misleading. And in his recent video where he talks about the odd ones out, it's safe to say that he took what James said out of context. I will elaborate more on these things later. But let's go ahead and watch the video so you can get an idea of the content that Foster produces. Please note that the style of his videos are subject to change.
Hey guys, it's your boy, it's Foster. This is gonna throw a gas on the flame that is my channel right now. I seriously am staring down the barrel of a gun that is the animation community. I'm ready for all the hate that I can get, so throw it at my way.
So right off the bat, the first mistake that I notice is Foster doesn't really address whom or what he's doing a review on in this video. A very minuscule mistake, but a mistake nonetheless. And yes, the aforementioned subject is indeed in the title, but you want to make it clear to your audience in the beginning of your review video that you'll be talking about insert subject of discussion here.
2 of his most recent 5 videos are actual story times. The other 3 include an MAP, a book ad, and Life is Fun. Faster, the map is a story. I'll give you half a point there. It's a very short story and not very good. The other 2 are Living Without Cable and Wrong Numbers. 2 videos which I've never really seen done. Good job on that one, but I could say that his content is too simplistic and that he should be able to make them on his own. And you'd be right. He's making it at the same level that he used to be making it when he didn't have help. But the help is for video length and scheduled uploads, and I can get that. But as I mentioned, the homemade feeling of animation is gone.
I'm going to have to disagree, because if you take James's recent video and compare it to one of his older videos, say the pros and cons of living in Arizona, you can tell there is a huge improvement in art style, meaning James has made various strides to better his art style, movement of characters, and even script writing. Define homemade. James still writes the scripts, edits, colors, and does some of the base movement. Even though there are a few people helping him here and there, James's videos are still his. He is still in control over the content he produces. Just because you hire a few people to help you with producing content faster and more efficiently doesn't necessarily mean you lose the homemade aspect of the videos you produce.
I used to watch James's content. Then I stopped around a science fair video, and the reasoning behind it was old DMs that we had. A few bridges were burnt. For short, he cannot talk to other people to save his life. Because when I told him that he was my hero in the thing, he just sent me a picture of his dog.
I'm not going to take a stance on whether or not this actually happened, but it does strike me as a little bit odd, pardon the pun, for James to just randomly send you a picture of his dog as a response to what you may have said to him in the DMs.
I've also seen where he responds to videos such as LS Mark and is being completely incompetent online. Thanks to LS Mark, Turkey Tom, and The Right Opinion for bringing these to light. I will mention these later on, but for now, let's talk about his. Now, looking back on his past videos, you can really see how James has grown as a content creator on YouTube, leading a somewhat lazy revolution of animated storytime videos, and outsmarting the algorithm. I've made his videos into 3 eras, these being the beginning, from I made a book as a kid, to 100,000 Sprinkles. The peak, which is I read a fan fiction about me, to being recognized. And finally, the modern era, from starting conversations to the present. I will be reviewing each era very briefly. The beginning, The Odd Ones Out was a poor aspect ratio. His content was pretty cool back then. He had more backgrounds than most other animators do right now, and he has put a lot more effort into his videos, going into more detail and more interesting topics than his newer videos. Towards his peak, he gained an ego. As seen in his Getting Recognized videos, he talks about this in a chaperoning video as well, about how he asked kids if they knew him.
I know exactly where you're going with this, and you're taking it out of context. In this video, yes, James used his subs to gain the approval of young, impressionable children, but he also said it was a little bit tacky to do so. Would he do something like that again? Probably not. I don't have that much of an opinion on the alleged ego part, but the ego that he had in his video probably doesn't portray him in real life at all. I really wouldn't know, since I don't know the guy personally.
James, you're really one lucky man. I can just say that you were able to figure out the algorithm better than anyone else could. You're probably doing all the moms. In all seriousness, he was able to exploit the algorithm to get more views and more fans. This was done through the bright visuals and loud sounds that keep the viewer's attention and extend retention time, along with the child-friendly and family-friendly content, where he doesn't swear, which is something that YouTube eats up nowadays, and craps out on the trending page.
You say that like it's a bad thing to have family-friendly content and have said content be promoted by YouTube.
One of his most popular videos that got him his claim to fame was his Subway video.
Incorrect. It was actually the ASMR video that went viral and got him his claim to fame.
I really think that he's made it big. Now, how else has he gotten so popular, may you ask? Well, it's as simple as featuring in as many other people's videos as possible for exposure.
That is also incorrect. He started doing collaborations after his rise to fame,
so that he's able to reach all mediums and levels of creation. This is how he became the king of YouTube animation. I would say that he is also probably one of the worst leaders that they could have probably gotten.
There is no king or leader in the YouTube animation community. To say so would be a fallacy in itself. Pioneers? Yes. Kings or leaders? Absolutely not.
It seems like he's on a downward spiral due to the next few points I'm going to make. In this section, in the next 3, I'll be discussing and talking about James as a person, his endeavors, and why he has become successful off of process and mediocreness.
Mediocrity?
To start off, his videos were nice back in the day. They had a nice, real, homemade feel to them, like you created it. Now that you hire other people to do it for you, that just ruins the feeling of you made something.
Just fast forwarding a little bit because of regurgitated or baseless arguments and insinuations.
In this section, I have a special guest, Mr. LS Mark, aka Lesbian Mark. Take it away, Mark.
So my first time being contacted by James was when he came to me after leaving his comment on my video. The comment where he states that storytime channels are fine because Fortnite. And he apologised to me for how awful it was. After that, things were fine for the most part. He got pissed at me for criticizing a kid's content, but other than that, it was all good. That's until I made my second video on Storytime channels. Twitchy decided to cut all association with me even after being praised by channels such as Turkey Tom for taking criticism so well.
For those of you who are not fully caught up on the situation between Mark and James, a link explaining this part of the video will be in the description, to which you don't have to fully watch Mark's video because I'm only focusing on this part right here. Now, in Mark's video, he summarizes the censored part of James's message, to which Mark basically said things like James regretting voicing in his second video on the AST community, and how James thinks calling someone lazy is a bad criticism, etc., etc. But is his summarization legitimate? Can we actually trust Mark's summarization? Because the only evidence the audience has to go off of are the first two sentences of James' message, and he really doesn't specify as to why the rest of James's message is redacted. Kind of makes you want to hear the other side of the story. What did James have to say about this situation? Just something to think about.
In this section, I'll mainly be discussing how people have turned into odd clones, the standard of the animated storytime community, and the limited stories people think to gain popularity, and the overall received praise of how James is set as a YouTuber, and how people interpret that to apply it to themselves and not change anything. The kind of videos he does can be easily replicated, and they are replicated. Also, I see how it became more recognizable through this impact of these kinds of videos that other people give him credit for. And now emerges the odd clones. People like Tim Tom, Fox Goodspicer, and people like all of these children.
I'm going to go on the defensive and say that this is just a faulty comparison. You've got Tim Tom, who actually puts effort into his videos in art style to make it look distinguishable enough to tell the audience, okay, I'm watching a Tim Tom video. And on the other hand, you have a literal copycat with no distinguishable effort in lackluster video topics. Oh, I gotta speed this up.
I don't really mind people who are quote-unquote clones of me. In fact, I'm probably for it. I like people who put effort into their videos, you know, and I enjoy a lot of them. I like clone channels so much that I put them in the background of my videos. So I don't see why people are attacking them just because they're quote unquote copying me. I'm pro clone. I think if 50 people were clone channels of me, that would be good.
When James says that he loves clones, he means people like Maz, Rebecca Perham, Something Else YT, Jaden Animations, Sugar, etc. People with distinguishable animation arts or storytelling styles, but still get ridiculed for being quote-unquote clones or rip-offs of James. He is not talking about literal carbon copies like this guy.
Now, let's talk about the worst part of the Odd Ones Out. It's kids, alright? It's kids.
While his fanbase leaves a lot to be desired, James is in no control over the behavior of the rabid fans of his fanbase. However, there are many people in his fanbase who are the complete opposite.
Make your animations as homemade as possible, cause you're making the same level of content as you have in the past. You'd be able to be better off not paying others and wasting your money.
James isn't wasting his money. He's got a group of talented animators and colorists to help him with the quality and frequency of uploads, and that shouldn't be discouraged. Finances are probably the least of his worries.
The one thing to do is to lower your ego and become more humble and down to earth. Another thing is to learn how to talk to people and be nice to others. Don't try to immediately assert yourself as dominant and above the person that you're trying to talk to. Sub count isn't everything. You, yourself, as a person, matters more.
About the only thing you can take away from Foster's video is that sub count isn't everything, and you shouldn't have a massive ego, despite the fact that James is probably a very humble person and isn't perfect by any means. The rest of Foster's video is just poor comedic banters, and that's it. So what do I think of Foster's video overall? I'm gonna be honest with you. It's a complete mess. There are a lot of mistakes that could have been easily avoided if you simply just did better research and rethink or refine your point. Here are some things to keep in mind when doing a review. 1. Make sure you specify whom or what is being talked about in the video. It does your audience no good if they don't know what you're talking about. Number 2, don't rely too much on your opinion. It's important to keep the review balanced or as non-biased as possible. Be careful not to become too opinionated. Number 3, make sure you're well informed. You wouldn't make a review of a book when you've only read the first chapter. All in all, Foster could use some improvement when it comes to his style of reviewing things, but for right now, he's just sort of mediocre. But Foster, I wish you the best of luck, and I hope to see you improve. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been your friendly neighborhood Shadow Jerry, and I will see you later. Take care. When James says that he loves clones, he's talking about people like Maz Rabakaparam. When James says that he loves clones, he's talking more so like Maz Rabakaparam. Damn it, I did it again.